Hey everyone, this is Brian Funk, and I want to tell you what's new for my music production club during the month of March 2021. Baby Audio is giving all members of the Music Production Club their iHeart New York parallel compressor. This is a really cool compressor that adds a lot of character and tonality to your sounds. When I want to add some weight and power to my music, I just grab iHeart New York, drop it on my track, and with the turn of just a few controls, I've got the sound I need, and I still maintain my dynamics. It's great for adding the right color to your sound. iHeart New York is normally $29, but you get it for free with your Music Production Club membership. Also included with your Music Production Club membership this month is the MPC edition of Dank Verb by Perform Module. Dank Verb is a collection of impulse responses that you can drop on your favorite convolution reverb plugin, like Hybrid Reverb in Live 11 or the Convolution Reverb Max for Live device. Impulse responses are really cool because they emulate real-world places in your reverbs and allow you to get the kind of natural reverb of an actual place. Dank Verb is getting gritty, dark, disturbed, scary sounding reverbs. They're really interesting, lots of character, and they can really change the way your music sounds. I think it's a really cool collection, and it's a great example of what you can do with a convolution reverb. So Dank Verb MPC edition is also included with your membership. If you'd like to get this fun stuff and so much more, head over to brianfunk.com/MPC to join. And check out what Baby Audio has on offer at BABYAUD.io. They've got some really cool stuff, including the awesome Super VHS VCR emulation plugin. And then be sure to check out performmodule.com, where Animus Invidius gives us all kinds of Ableton Live goodies, from free downloads, paid packs, tutorials, lots of great stuff that will up your Ableton Live game. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk. On today, I have a very special double feature of guests. I got Henny the Business and Kennard Garrett, two very accomplished musicians, producers, and songwriters. You guys have credits from like who's who in the music industry these days. I mean, like names like Drake, Lil Wayne, Sting, Shaggy. It's really an honor to talk to you guys, having that kind of success. And you guys are also you've recently put out Housemarque 1, which is an app for iOS. It's like a Rhodes keyboard type of deal. And
right.
I've had a chance to play around with it. It's a beautiful app.
Thank you.
It's simple and it's deep. It's kind of, you hit that magic point where you can really just kind of pop it on and then just go with a couple knobs, or you can kind of dig in a little bit. And, I think that's really cool that you're able to kind of give something for like people that are just starting off, and then others that might want to go a little more deep in the sound design. And so we'll talk about all that, and also just some of your work with education and giving back to the community. So welcome aboard, gentlemen. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So how did you guys start working together? Is this something that goes back a long ways, or is it new for the app?
Go ahead. Wow. Go ahead. Yeah. We'll tag team this answer here. So interestingly enough, Henny and I went to college together. We went to undergrad together at Morehouse College, and although we had desires and aspirations for the music industry, we actually didn't really get together or really click until a lot later, almost 20 years later. The reality is that we weren't friends at all. We weren't enemies, but we definitely weren't hanging out.
Right.
So, we went in our separate direction. And Henny can tell you, before he even finished school, he had a deal and, immediately started working in the industry. I took a different route. I spent 7 years in corporate America. But immediately upon graduation, I started working to try to get into the music industry and build a music career, which I finally did. In our many studio sessions, we would cross paths sometimes, and it was really, really good seeing a familiar face in that space when you're dealing with like big artists and things of that nature. I mean, he was just killing it on his end. And so, that's kind of how we started 20 years ago. Hen, you can kind of pick up how we came together.
Yeah. So it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Kennard had started going back to our alma mater, Morehouse College, and he wanted to really start educating some of the students there on music production. And of course, over 10 years ago, Ray Charles had gifted a large sum to the college, and they built a huge performing arts center, which he now runs. And they built a really nice studio in this performing arts center in the college. And he was, telling me, I'm doing these workshops. If you ever had a chance, I would love to have you teach, and just be a guest on, one of my workshop classes that we're doing at the school. And so, of course, we went and I did the workshop with him. Things started to click, and then he was like, if you ever need any studio time or any time to just, work with artists, kind of grind, do whatever you need to do, the studio here at the college is open for you. And so, lo and behold, I hit him back maybe, I don't know, 9 months later, and I was in search of a space that I needed to work with a new artist. And I hit him up and I said, "Yo, I know that you, told me that we could possibly do some sessions in this at the school. Can I come through it and bang out some things?" And he was like, "Oh, sure." But I was like, can we do it together? Can we collaborate? And he, we both, just figured why not. And it turned into some 3 days of incredible work that just kind of clicked. For years I've been a collaborator of sorts with music production and things of that needs, and I really wanted to start working more with other talented musicians like myself. And so it just kind of worked, and we clicked. And then more ideas about doing more stuff at the school. And then he officially brought me on as a professor as we worked at the details with the school. And so now we're both teaching at the school, and it's been a crazy ride these last 2.5, almost 3 years now of us being professors together, collaborating together, building apps together, and now we're taking it on to a whole nother list of things that we're doing. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Right. And what classes are you guys teaching? What are the subjects?
Yeah, so we teach music production and recording sciences. We actually created and taught a course this past spring. It was a J Masters, very condensed course called Today's Music Industry, Race, Technology, and Culture. So, yeah, we're hitting it from all sides, from the technical side to just really talking about the industry and business and what the future holds for this industry.
I love that schools, and it's largely due to people like you guys, are really starting to think a little more ahead. Music departments can be really traditional, and they can kind of be like, stuck in the classical ways of doing things. But we're starting to see now this recognition that, the music industry has changed like so much in just, in the last 2 decades, say, whatever. Yeah. But I mean, sure. And sometimes like the education part doesn't catch up with it. But it's really nice to see people like you guys putting in the effort to show young people what's possible out there.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We just a lot. Yeah, I mean, Brian, I think we've seen technology just explode, which is a big driver of our industry. Kind of education sometimes is like legislation. It takes years to catch up with what's actually happening in a practical manner. But yeah, I mean, for us, we hear all the time young people saying, "Hey, I want to be like you guys. I want to do what you're doing," not knowing that by the time they start doing it, it's a whole different ball game. And so Henny's always been a big one on like educating and putting education out there to people because they need to know the reality of it. In this industry, sometimes it can get so covered up in the awards and the videos and what looks like a lifestyle, but really understanding the nuts and bolts of it. That's where we want to hit.
Yeah, and when it comes to teaching these students, we really want to take the approach of just we always start out from where it started, back in the 1800s, all the way up until what is it going to look like in 2030. So, like taking the approach of past, present, and future to really get our students' ideas, their minds open on, okay, this is how it started. These are the critical things that happen. And we always realize that technology is what drives innovation, is what drives entertainment. The way that we consume things, the way that, we purchase things and buy things and stream things now. And then what's coming up next, whether it's AI or doing things with, a lot of, I don't know, just vertical integrations with just the way speech is being such a huge thing with Google and Amazon and Apple with Siri and Alexa and everything else. How is that going to play a pivotal role in the creation of music and music production things? So we're trying to really be open-minded with where it's going, but also go deep in where it's been. So.
Now, do you guys find having younger students coming in helps you sort of predict the future trajectory? So, like, I mean, with my students at the high school level, like they're always the first ones on the new technologies, the new apps.
Oh yeah.
TikTok a few years ago was I first heard that in the classroom. And I'm like, what are you guys even talking about? And now, was it last summer that those videos with the Fleetwood Mac song Dreams pushed that song back on the charts and maybe even to number one, like something crazy like that?
Yeah.
How do you take what you see from the students? Does that factor in even?
I think so, tremendously. But I think it's based off the fact that we both have kids around the same age. So I have a son that's 11. His daughter's 10. We both have, his son is 7. My daughter's 7. So when you look at your kids, and that was one of the biggest things, whether it's students or children, when you're around the youth and seeing how they're doing things and, what's new. And, my son, he's talking about Discord and other things. And I'm like, yo, I'm lost. Please lighten me on what's going on, or just like, the way kids or students are using these devices and what they're using them for. Like my daughter's 7 and she doesn't type anything out. She always just asks Siri everything, right? So it's just like, think about that as it relates to search, as it relates to how kids want to interact with devices, and how that can turn into music and music production. So we're always on the search for, okay, what's new, what's going on, how are you doing that? Or because these kids are up on things so quick, I'm like, oh, I'm lost, please help me out.
Yeah I think another thing too, it keeps us youthful, man. I mean, you probably see the same thing. It's when you're having discussions with someone who you're, I mean, for us, sometimes we're talking to some of these college students, like, you could be my son, you know that, right? Like, I was graduating from school when you were born. But when we're having these conversations with them, it gives us this youthfulness. It makes us go and research harder and really try to bring stuff to them that will interest them and pique their minds, and it just keeps us going. I mean, it keeps us more educated, but more in their world. And I think for us in music, and this has been a downfall of a lot of great talents, they don't embrace what's new. They don't embrace new technology, new methods of doing things. And we're the guys that say, hey, let's just at least try it. Let's give it a shot. Let's see if it can work.
Yeah.
And let's have some fun with it,
Yeah, my big shock when I started teaching was that I'm the one learning probably the most in this room out of everybody.
I'm telling you, it happens.
Yeah. Every time. Time.
Yeah, because I think, at first maybe my attitude was a little arrogant. I was like 25 amongst high school kids, but I'm like, these little kids, But I was surprised how much I was learning from them. And just like you said, it just keeps you fresh and it just keeps you aware of what's going on. And I think it helped me become a more open-minded person, actually, by just realizing, they may be younger than me, but I can learn a lot from them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So, I guess in terms of new technology, I know, Henny, if you look at your YouTube, you've really embraced iOS and touch screens and all of that kind of stuff. And that's where you guys have focused a lot of your energy now with Housemark One. Do you want to tell everyone about that a little bit? It's a really cool story, I think, even just from how you guys did it. Because there are there's no shortage of like Fender Rhodes samples out there, right?
Right.
And those kinds of like electric keyboards. So I guess what I'm asking is, what made you guys feel like, that was something you could work on that would add to it? And the process is really interesting. I'd love to hear you guys go into a little more detail about that.
Sure. So, for me being, trying to figure out the best way of creating music in a new mobile age, right? 5 years ago, thought about, shutting my whole studio down and just working on an iPad just to see if it was possible. That was always the first thing. But as we start, and the years come around, more people start to see exactly what's happening in the music production iOS space. We're sitting there thinking, okay, what tools are we missing, right? That was kind of the first step. As I was bringing, KG in on like, like these things are crazy. These apps are really dope. What are the things that we're missing? And for me, as we start to see more and more app developers make certain apps, I wanted to see them be more simple, because we've had tremendous success working with brands like Native Instruments and, Symphonic and all of these, companies that give you tons and tons and tons of presets, right? And the hardest part for me is when I had a fully rigged out studio. And I think a lot of us can attest to this. Sometimes it's hard to figure out where to start, right? Like you have every preset, you have everything, you got racks of keyboards, and you just want to start on something. And so I wanted to figure out, how can we take these things and make them more simple? And what are we missing? And me and KG are both, keyboard piano players. And so, for us being able to think about the keyboard and, there's tons of piano apps, but what about that Rhodes? Because, I'll let KG take on from here, but, he had a vintage Fender Rhodes in our studio at Morehouse. And we looked at that and said, if we can emulate this for the iPad, I think this could really help us out and then maybe even show the students. So, yeah.
Yeah. We like Henny was saying, we were trying to build a toolkit. One thing is that we can create something just to say we created it. But as music producers, songwriters, creators, this is how we write our songs. And as we've been doing so much in a mobile space, there was nothing like being in the studio and playing that Fender Rhodes, like just getting the sound, just the feel of the keys, the noises that came from it. It gave a different sense of inspiration. So, as we went down the road of app development and what could we do, it was a natural, it was a go-to. And I luckily owned a 1974 88 key Fender Rhodes in pristine condition. It's like 200 pounds to move that thing around. But we always want to have access to it as we were taking on projects and, at a time when we could travel.
Right.
In other places, we always want to make sure we have our tools at hand. So it was a natural thing for us to kind of take that on as a first project. It's not hard in what we did, but the approach, I think, to make this for iOS. And to really try to capture the feel and true sound of that instrument, it's something we use in all our work. So it's like I said, it's not rocket science, but this is what Henny say. He's like, so many people throw the kitchen sink at you, when maybe the thing I need is just the thing right in front of me. And so how can we start building those tools and make them good, make them very good, to have that toolkit to then begin work.
Hey guys, I'm on a podcast.
Yeah, the Fender Rhodes is, even at a time when you can travel, it's kind of a tough one to lug around.
Yeah.
And it's so mechanical too, so that
Right.
it's delicate,
Yeah.
Yes, very. And so for us, once we started building a relationship, and it really goes hand in hand with this whole YouTube process, the YouTube channel, everything, was the fact that like we started building relationships with app developers, just because I wanted to review them, or I wanted to understand a little bit more about the process of what's going on with some of these apps. And Matthew Fetcher from Audio Kit Pro reached out and he said, "Hey, Henny, I have this free iPad that I would love to give as a giveaway on one of your videos. And I was like, wow, okay, let's do it, right? And so we started a giveaway, a contest on one of the videos we were talking about, maybe top iPad music apps or something like that. And then we started building a relationship. He said he was moving to Atlanta, and so we met him at the school, and we just started building a relationship there based off of the YouTube channel. And then he told us he thought it would be great using his platform and the open source code that they have with AudioKit Pro, and being able to, just take what they've already built, as far as coding is concerned, start showing the students exactly how it works, and then all the other things like, the mic placements and the sound, design of making sure that we got the sound correct, all the way down to the noises and the way we sampled it. And then also making sure that it was in a very small container, because, with these iPad apps, you really need it to be under 150 megabytes. So that's why we didn't have as many velocities and all these layers, just to make sure that we had just the right sounds, but not too many. And it came out pretty good. We're excited about how it's worked so far.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you were able to get that much variety of sound in an app, basically.
Yeah.
There you can get sample libraries now, and it's like 12 gigs of samples.
Right.
I've kind of come full circle where now the larger size stuff is almost a turn off to me. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
man, because like you said, I've already got too much stuff.
Exactly.
and
I think another piece of that too, and Henny kind of mentioned the focus with the students. We were kind of sitting there talking about this app and talking about coding with Matt, and we still needed to do something for our semester. And as we started talking about it, it was kind of like, whoa, everything that we were going to teach, we could actually teach it just by building this app. Like he mentioned, the mic placement, mic selection, sample rates, getting into a DAW, editing, all that stuff we could just teach from this process. And then you get the added cool factor of the coding aspect. And what was really inspiring was, I think it was one of our first classes, a student walked in and saw the Rhodes there, and he was like, wow, I've never played one of these. Can I play this? And it was like light bulb went off. Like, we're gonna put one of these in each of your pockets at the end of this semester. So, I mean, that's the story of how it came about.
Yeah.
That's cool. School can be very make-believe, where these
Right.
projects that you do that are just like kind of these things especially in high school. I mean, like it's just like out of the textbook and stuff. But when you can
Right.
do like a project like this, where all those lessons are built in, and it's for a purpose, it has actual reason, and there's going to be an actual product when you're done with it. You're going to see the results of your work, and it's not just for the professor in the class to look at and give you a grade on, but it's the whole world gets a shot at it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then on top of that, we're able to, give thousands of dollars back to the school for the music department. So it just goes hand in hand, and being able to do this over and over again for future students. So I think, it's just more light bulbs going off every time we talk about the app, talk about how it's worked and how it's continually working, because proceeds are definitely going back to the music department at Morehouse College. And we're thinking of ways that we can, continue to build the media up as far as this app is concerned, so that, we can get more people's just ideas on maybe what else is needed, what other tools in your toolkit is needed, missing from, the iOS platform. And even now, starting to bring some of these iOS apps back into like Mac platforms with these newer Macs. And so we're thinking ahead and thinking for future for that as well. So yeah, it's cool.
That's something I wanted to just draw a little attention to, that you guys are reinvesting it into the school. So the proceeds,
Definitely.
so you're taking profits from there and just putting it right back into the program in the school, correct?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. A portion of the proceeds is going back. I mean, that was a big thing. As we're sitting there every year, it's kind of like when we have to go through budget of what
Yeah.
we need and what we're asking for. How about if we found a cool way to just sell fun? Sell fun because it's going to benefit the students and it's not taxing. I mean, that's one of the biggest thing with music programs. They get cut so much as a line item that people say, we can't afford this. This is not the education. But we know the value and importance of that. So that's why it's so important for us to be able to focus on that type of thing going back to the music department.
Yeah, so I want to stress that for anyone listening. If you're even thinking about this, checking out Housemark One, I mean, it's only a couple of dollars anyway, but you're also giving back to education, and you're and I always say, like, we had the big election this year, and a lot of people I know, even still in this like contentious election, don't vote because they feel like it doesn't matter. Why? I'm one person, but I always say, like, your money is like your vote every day,
and
and
your vote, right?
And this is a great way to just do something that will obviously benefit you because you got this really awesome Rhodes. But you're just saying, I want more of this. I want this direction to continue, and that's a cool thing that you guys are doing, is just making it possible for even more stuff like this to happen.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
100%.
I love that you guys worked in the key noises, like these subtle things. And I make like a lot of my own sounds with in Ableton Live and with samplers and stuff. And I'm always like kind of thinking about like the stuff that you almost don't want in the recording, but gets in there anyway. But those are the things that kind of make it sound human and natural. And the fact that you guys threw those key sounds in, it sounds like you're sitting around the actual keyboard while someone's playing it. It takes you there.
That was a part of it. It is electromechanical, instrument, and there's something about the feel of those keys being pressed, and really the noises that come from it. I mean, so many times you get these sample libraries that are just so clean and pristine. It's like, oh, that sounds amazing. But we know from making records, sometimes we'll have a demo, right? And it might have been, I don't know, a note could have been slightly off, or someone could have been closing the door, but somehow it just fit in there, and you heard it, and it was just like, I can't even recreate this,
Yeah.
That's how we felt about this. Like, the if you want it real is not clean.
Yeah.
Real might have a little buzz going through. Like I hear voltage in this. So that was a big thing. Even to the sustain pedal being pressed, we wanted to capture that noise, because if you're playing on a MIDI keyboard, or even on your iPad, and you hit that sustain, it gives you a feeling. It pulls something out of you. So it was really important to capture that.
Yeah, I think, I come from a time like you guys, I'm sure, like where I was making my demos on 4-track cassette recorders, and I was fighting all this stuff. This is the stuff I was trying to get out. But when I listen back to those tapes, I'm like, sometimes I'd try to recreate the demos, and like it just, it was missing something. And
too clinical, right? Yeah.
It's too clinical. When you record inside your DAW, you record that one track, and then it's like the audio file stops. You have this sterile silence that doesn't exist in the world anywhere. And I find myself nowadays, I'm trying to like bring all those like problems back in. And even like you said before, one of the problems we have is too much choice now. And I find myself trying to like limit what I'm able to do.
No, that's
it's
exactly
such a funny contradiction or paradox we're in, but
and I see that a lot in life. You see, you get uber successful and you have everything that you could possibly want at the, whatever, whether you need to purchase it or you already have it. And more, I see a lot of people saying, I don't need it. I don't need all of this. I don't need all of this. I don't need this. I don't need that. And you get back to the things that you really care about and that you really love. I think this whole past year of all of us being in the pandemic, being locked down, thinking about what really matters in life. All of us are sitting here thinking, okay, what what matters, and when you come all the way back down to doing, this music stuff, and where we're trying to do things with iOS and trying to make it more simple, is trying to find the right tools, just what works. Let's just keep rocking with that, and find other ways to build that tool set up, and just the key components, and then you can sprinkle some things here and there, but we're just trying to make it as simple and minimalistic as possible when it comes to the things that we want to be involved in, and actually the things that we're purchasing and doing, so that we don't have just so much, because every time we go anywhere, something's trying to be sold to us, as far as a gadget or a toy or new equipment or new mic. Every time we look, and we get that gas syndrome. But I really want to make sure that even the students learn that there is an idea about is having too much going to only lessen your creativity.
Yeah, I see that sometimes in myself too. Like, I'm acting like I'm immune, and I'm so much a victim of this. And I know it. I'm so aware of it, but still, it doesn't matter. That new thing comes out, and like, oh, it is a fascinating, fun time to live, because we have access to so much. But I do try to really instill in like the students that like you already have everything you need, and you have, even if you just have a phone, you're way ahead of like the Beatles were, and look at what they did.
Hey, you way ahead. You way ahead of NASA putting a man on the moon. You got a cell phone.
Yeah, that's what they say, right? Like, it's more powerful than those computers.
Yeah, I think they said they had 2 gigs of memory on the computers on Apollo 11. 2 gigs.
I don't think I can run my DAW on 2 gigs.
Right.
Even a web browser won't tolerate that. Yeah, it's this like kind of illusion. I guess it's really easy to fall into that. You need the new thing, you need more. But I do find, like you guys are saying, sometimes it's almost the problem that there's too much to choose from.
100%.
How did your students feel when they were, able to actually see this thing and like go on their phone? And by the way, didn't this hit like #1 in the music department of the App Store?
Right. Yeah. It
So
was,
cool.
It was a #1 app. That same day it was released, we went to #1, and which for us, we've had #1 records, and having a #1 app is just a totally different feeling. It's like, wow, we're consistent. I like that.
Because and it's why we did it, and when you think about the students, and you get those, some of these students aren't in our classes anymore, because that was like fall of 2019. But getting the DMs from them like, yo, this is incredible, loving it, love the way it came out. Because what happened was we took, we did the class fall semester 2019, and this is when we developed the app. And we were scheduled to drop the app South by Southwest 2020. And of course, the pandemic hit, and it slowed everything down. And we had pretty much everything situated as far as the coding was concerned, and the samples and all of that. But it just wasn't, it just didn't really turn around until October of last year, when we finally put all the little media and video pieces together, and did enough beta testing with all of those that were students or even touring musicians. We had so many just trying this thing out. We just wanted to make sure that it really worked. We had some sustain issues, we had some other things, we had some pedal noise issues that might have been too loud, so we went on a few rounds with properly beta testing, making sure that it was right. But now between the students and the community, all the people, we're amazed at how much people are really enjoying this. And we were just hoping that we would just get the sound right, and people seem to really enjoy it so far.
Right.
So you've had, then, let me ask you this. You're consistent. You got your #1 records. You got your #1 app. What do you think are some common threads that have maybe helped you in both areas?
Well, we probably can come up with a lot of answers for this, but one thing is coming from a genuine place, and that's about your start. for us, when it comes to music, it's more about we we listen to what's there, and we create from a good, clean space. I mean, from the ground up. I know most of our sessions start with a conversation.
Yeah.
When we're sitting with an artist, it might be 3 hours of talking. They're looking like, "Are we gonna make any music?" But it is digging deep and getting that ultimate feel. I mean, that's our job as producers to bring that out. And making music is something that it's intimate. I feel like it's making soup, and everybody's bringing the proper ingredients to the table. So that's it's a very organic process there. That was our approach to the app also, with bringing in the community. As he said, when we started talking beta testing, it was, we had people who were heavy in the iOS. We had virtuoso keyboard players playing. We had, as he mentioned, a touring musician. We had like Justin Timberlake's keyboard player testing this out. We had engineers testing this out, and everybody played a part. And I think even with us and brainstorming audio kit about this, yeah, anybody can say, yeah, we made an electric piano, but we stuck with it. And the story is like, this is what's needed. And it's kind of like that's with music also. It's what's needed, not just to do something, just to do it. So
yeah. And so to continue with what he was saying, I think it's always been a great success when we collaborate with others and understand everybody's strengths and weaknesses. Doing our best to to be as transparent as possible in the rooms that we're creating, so people understand intention and understand why we're doing the things that we're doing. But then also just trying to get the idea of just leaving your ego at the door, and just really working with each other. And when you start to do those things and understand why we're doing them, you might fail all the time, but you get back up and say, we can try this again. We can try this again. That's probably why it took us a little bit more time to get it out than we wanted. But when it came out, it was perfect timing. So, letting the ego go, being transparent, working with great collaborators, understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses. I think that will always help us to make the best product that we can bring to the table.
Yeah, and those sound like good rules for making music as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like setting that intention. I know for me, it's if I'm writing a song, I might have like the parts and maybe even like a lyric or two, but it's not until like I get the story. I get okay, this is the character in the story, or this is whatever it is. This is the purpose of the song. Maybe even like you're gonna listen to this while you're on that drive home late at night after the breakup.
No, that's big. I mean, you hit it on the head, man. When we started writing songs together, we had outsiders who were like, y'all been writing this for 3 months. We're like, we know, but just taking our time and really finding it, because it's so easy today to just create. I mean, the reality is you can just create, but creating with a purpose is something, and having patience is something that a lot of people just can't do. They just cannot do it.
I find it interesting that you used the word finding it. Is that how you see songs and music? Is it almost like something you kind of uncover, or do you see it more as like this very deliberate construction? Some combination?
Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, you're always in the search, right? I feel like life is like that. You're always constantly searching for these moments, and it's they usually find you more than you're searching for them. But we're always searching. We're always trying to find that magic, and you never, like I said, you don't really find it. It just starts to happen, and then you recognize that. Over years of feeling that feeling, or those goosebumps in the back of your neck, or that joy that you start to feel in your spirit. You're like, oh, yep, this is something.
This is it.
Don't forget that. Don't forget how you felt about that.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing. Yeah, it's I'm saying finding, but it's recognizing.
Yeah.
You know, as I was having a conversation the other day about just finding myself. It's been a long journey of even doing that, and I think we find ourselves in actions, but the thing that happens is people, they don't recognize it. Like when you had the magic in the bottle, and you might have had that feeling, but you just shrugged it off. No, it's like, no, this is it. I mean, and the reality is, this is a big part of our company. Henny and I, we found each other. Like, we've had separate careers. We've, sold millions of records. We ended up in the Recording Academy, serving on the board for the Recording Academy. By the way, today is Grammy Day. The Grammys are happening tonight. But, it took all that time and all that we went through separately, even, our families, finding our wives and having these children and everything that we went through to really come together. And now it's about figuring out that purpose. But one thing I can respect about him, and he probably would say the same about me, we recognize that night, that first night we had that session, like, there's something here. There's something here. And, same thing with this app. It was like, wow, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I couldn't imagine that we would, not only be making records together. That's how it kind of started, but we did a museum project together. We're in a museum, and then this technology comes. It's like, there's something here, and that's been the cornerstone of our company. And it's like, wow, we really got something with this music education and technology. And as we even continue to define and firm that up, we're still recognizing incredible things for the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, I guess by the time you guys came back to working together again, you'd worked with enough people to know when things work, when things don't work, and then to see, like, you guys had something that clicked. And it's neat that it's transcended not just the music, but also this other aspect of your careers and the company and the technology part.
Definitely.
Those common threads, they seem to tie it together. Like, you guys can kind of do anything together if you decided to.
And that's,
I like that.
And that's that's kind of how we feel at this point, knowing that you have partnerships, regardless if they're relationships, regardless you've had friendships since your kids all the way up into who we are as men today, and you realize what you're looking for in partners and collaborators, what things you will tolerate, what things you won't, what things you're really looking for. And it just goes in, and as we think about, being able to do whatever we want to do, if we just continue to think about that as it relates to building more partnerships with other people, what are the other, collaborators, partnerships that you want to really dive into? And so that's our approach now, and that's why we don't feel like, we feel the sky's the limit, I guess you could say,
Nice. Yeah, I believe it. I think that, like you said, like some of those key things like ego and open-mindedness and the willingness to keep looking and not rushing it are qualities that tend to work in a lot of different fields, a lot of different projects.
It's, the saying goes, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And, if we look up, let's say 20 years ago, we were looking back and we just wanted to, be hit music producers. Well, I think we did that, and not to say that we won't continue to, and we won't continue to find the right projects that really inspire us and keep us going. But we got a lot more living to do, and I think in this stage of our life, we're finding that we have a lot more purpose because we have been blessed with such incredible talents and gifts and opportunity, and we have the advantage of being able to pull back and look at the bigger picture. And so that's where we're going, is like, how do we tie all these pieces together? We did that well. And I think we're doing this well over here. And maybe we're still learning this, but we're getting into rhythm. So now it's, next 10 to 20 years of pulling this all together and really making impact.
Yeah, and just giving yourself enough time. When you start anything, you start any relationship, if you know that it's gelling and you know that it's clicking, one of the first things that we stated when we started to really formalize this idea of coming together as a business, as a for real partnership, let's give ourselves 10 years at least. Let's figure this thing out, because you're gonna come and have to deal with conflicts and conflict resolutions and frustrations and issues and problems. Those things are just definitely going to come regardless, and then you're going to have on the opposite side a lot of wins and joy and happiness. And so there's going to be waves and waves of things going on, so you might as well give yourself enough time to really from the start give yourself enough time. And I say that with anything that anybody wants to try to tackle. It's just, if you give yourself enough time, you don't always have to feel like every single thing has to be so perfect, because you're like, if you look at it from 10 years out, that one little thing that you're being so frustrated about right now might not even be anything 10 years from now. So that's kind of how we are approaching this situation. So yeah.
That's a great point, because man, I've been in enough, whether it's bands or relationships, that the little problem at the moment becomes the thing that destroys it. Mm-hmm. And I do think maybe one thing I've learned being married is you do have that bigger picture thing where you can kind of look at this issue that maybe could have taken down another relationship. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we're kind of thinking more big picture helps you get through that. And, that's nice to hear you articulate that in terms of like a business and artistic relationship.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great point. You guys have worked with all kinds of artists at all kinds of levels. Have you noticed any kind of common threads that set the like the greats apart? Are there things they have in common, or ways they work that are different from others that don't get that same kind of success?
A lot of the greats that I've been around, they take their time, and sometimes, I think that's, it can be frustrating for people who like to work very, very fast. But even, my thinking about some of these artists that I've worked with and I've really admired working with them, they'll take their time, and, we'll go in the studio, we'll play some music, we'll play some tracks and do some things. And then, they'll pick some ideas out that they want to start with, and then they'll leave, and they'll give themselves space to make sure that their idea is concrete in what they want to do with whatever it is, a song or an idea or a hook or whatever. And then we'll come back, and then we'll fine tune, and we'll fine tune, and we'll fine tune. And I've seen that in a lot of the artists that seem to continuously do well, because some artists are just hot and they have this moment and then they just fizzle. But those who are just lasting for decades, like they've taken their time, they're open to the new ideas. They're always ready to collaborate with people that aren't as successful as them, and they move forward with their career and not being afraid of letting the outside control their career, and that's what I really look at as far as a thread. What about you, KJ?
Yeah, I think, these people who are great, they're artists. I mean, they truly are artists, and they respect and love the art. They're also well versed in other things, like, whether it's music history or whether it's some other aspect of life and art or whatever. They're usually well rounded. It's always this this hunger for knowledge in some sense, and working hard. It's not the microwave. Let's put it in there and just take it out. It's like, no, we're gonna get this right. We're gonna keep doing it until we get it right. And that's been probably the common thread that I've seen with a lot of the great folks that I've worked with.
That's interesting too, because we are in a world that's kind of encouraging artists especially to keep with the content.
Content,
And I think maybe content is like an interesting word too. It's not the art, it's the content.
Content, yeah.
Right.
Staying relevant.
Take the flavor out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you mean you think about some of those old albums or some of the greats. I shouldn't say old. But they disappear for a while, man. Like they're off the radar. And I think it's that fear in today's society of thinking like, man, if I leave for too long,
Somebody's gonna take my spot.
yeah, somebody's going to take my spot. But instead of just leaving to leave, why don't you leave and get inspired and find out what it is that is the next chapter in your book? And it's a lot what we talked about. It's just noticing it, discovering it, and then you work on it. And I think people don't give themselves the space to do that today, and it suffers. Listen, we hadn't heard from Bruno Mars for 4 years, 3 years, just quiet after a monster album, right? And then, within a week's time, he jumps back on the scene from nowhere, and it's just like, whoa, we missed you. We needed to feel that we missed you.
Yes.
Adele's the same way. I mean, these greats who have these long careers, they might reinvent. Tony Bennett's coming, doing an album with Lady Gaga, or vice versa. We hadn't heard from Gaga in this place, and now she's over here doing it in this place. So I think that's missing, man. I think that's missing.
Yeah, and any relationship, right? Missing each other, regardless if it's you're just taking some time off, or you're just you're off for a trip or a weekend. Having that moment to miss that person, miss that thing, brings you back to it, and I truly appreciate that. The other thing that I'll say is that when you are hot, a lot of that might not be the time for you to switch up. You might need to run that hot streak a little longer. And don't be afraid to continuously give what people think are they're craving, right? If you're in this rhythm and you're in this workflow, and you have this team and you're building and you're doing things right, continue to put out that fire, because you can continue to master that art and that sound. And I've seen that in two different areas. Like you see, like with Michael Jackson's Off the Wall and the team that he had, and then they went right back and then they did Thriller, and it just was like, it just changed the game, right? Even towards my career, when one of my biggest first hits with Drake and Lil Wayne, and everybody was asking for that sound, and I was reluctant to do it. I wanted to switch it up, and I probably should have stayed at that moment. I'm glad with where I'm at, but I could tell that if I would have stayed, probably trying to work in that sound and that idea, I could have mastered that idea even further. But sometimes, give yourself time you got to push through those moments where you want to switch things up all the time and just stay the course. So, yeah, it can work in both ways sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's the scarcity that makes the precious stone precious, right?
Right.
But at the same time, there is something to be said about knowing when to kind of keep pressing the gas a little.
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's an art itself,
life,
right?
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, balance life, trying to balance.
Yeah.
And that goes. Good companies, good leadership of companies recognize that too. They know when to keep pushing on, when to pull back, and that's strategy. That's years down the line. Apple's a perfect example of that. Is sometimes I'm like, I don't know the strategy here, Apple, but they definitely have one. And with the phones and the tablets right now, they know to ride this wave. They understand that. But I know there's some stuff out there that they'll pull back and introduce, and we'll be like, wow, okay, we're building this whole ecosystem. We didn't realize you were gonna put chips in our heads. Yeah. See Elon Musk. I mean, really, for real. Think about it. All these Starlink satellites that are going up that really fly under the radar. There was a launch last night. Put 60 more satellites. He's about to have global satellite, positioning, and then he's got all this AI on the roads. It's like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's getting very Iron Man-esque.
There's a bigger play here.
Well, my dad gave me a call over the summer, and he said, you should look up in the sky tonight. You're going to see the satellites go by. I'm like, all right. So I look up, and I'm like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I think I see one. And then, I'm not even kidding you, for like the next half hour, one after the other groups.
There's so many.
I mean, and that's just what I can see. And, and they're really, it's up there, so something's in the works.
Oh yeah, I mean, even to play to Mars, it's kind of like he puts that out there, and it's like, well, I need money to do that, so I'm going to build an incredibly great car that just totally changes the auto market, and I'm just funding it. It's one idea that's leading into the next. I mean, it's incredible, and
driving that car to Mars.
Right. We're pulling together the little pieces of our company right now, but it's about having that vision and knowing when to push the gas on what's here. And I think we're really at that point of we recognize that there's a space here for music, technology, and education.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've noticed, Kennard, you say this word a lot, recognize and noticing. And I think that shows like your awareness. You're paying attention to what's going on and what's working, and that's an important thing for us to pay attention to. And when things are good, that's special.
Yeah,
and it's not always it's not an accident, really. It's something worth putting value on. I can see how that's worked for you guys.
That's the difficult part. I think for us both, we've said this a number of times. People say, man, you guys been in the game for over 20 years and you're still successful. It's just that we didn't stop. I mean, it's so easy to quit and say, well, I didn't see it right there, so it's time to, let it go. But we know there's a long game. So it's about recognizing when something's working and pushing the gas.
But it takes years, of experience and understanding, when I probably should have stopped a while ago with that relationship, or I probably should have stopped using that type of equipment years ago and try to switch to this one. All those Android guys who first, got their iPhone, like, damn it, should have done this years ago. But I get a joke anytime I see a green bubble on my phone. I'm just like, oh, come on, what are we doing? 2021.
That's funny. Yeah, I guess as far as like when you're talking about apps and all of that, there's kind of not a lot of competition there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a lot of fun for me, and I want to also just send a shout out, as you guys did too, to Matt Fetcher for hooking us up here.
And great guy.
This is just another example of like how collaboration works so well, and I got to know him a little bit, had a few conversations with him on the podcast and whatnot, and it's making those connections and meeting people that really. Just help us all grow, and as artists, it's as producers and stuff, but it's people too. And
exactly.
I mean, almost everything you guys said today could be music, could be business, could be life, could be relationships, and I think that is probably why it works so well, because it's that like those kind of like core values that just sort of work all over the place that you guys seem to have a really nice handle on.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is just, trying to get deep with it. And KG will try to tell. I always try to get really deep for no reason on everything, but
I love
I
it.
think
I
that's
love
the
it.
that's the core of what I'm always searching for. It's just the real meaning of things, and it's the relationships with the way you do things, or the tools that you're creating. For us, it's just about making sure that there's that there's that substance there that's going to really make it stick. And it's exciting to do these type of podcasts. So we appreciate you having us on, because I think we're really at the cusp of a lot of people taking notice to these newer platforms and doing music differently, and doing production differently. And we're just trying to continuously be on the forefront of that, and allowing our art and our relationships to bring more light to it. So yeah, we appreciate you having us for sure.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm really thankful for everything you guys are doing, from the music itself to the app, but I think maybe even might be a little tougher to put my finger on, but just all the giving back you're doing, and the unknown branches and ripples you're sending out into the world there, through the education, through just sharing, giving back from what you've learned. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that, because I think that will have a real nice long-term effect on our world here, and on our little community of producers. So thank you
Yes,
both for
sir.
that.
Definitely,
on.
man.
And thanks for taking the time to sit down today and talk. I really do appreciate that. It's great.
Appreciate it,
Great
Brian.
chat.
Glad it worked, and we made sure that we got the timing right with the daylight savings.
right.
Yeah. You know what? Every time the times change, something funny happens. It's just, how it is. But
sure.
thanks for that. And thank you to everyone listening. Where can we send people? Where do you like to, Housemark 1 is on the App Store, so you can just search that and they'll find there. Any place you guys like to send your fans and followers to check out more of your work?
I mean, a lot of it is just through Google. We just, if you type in Kennard Garrett, if you type in Henny the Business, we haven't completely started branding Westview Drive yet, so we don't typically, send people anywhere towards that. But, Henny the Business, HennyTheBizNess, Kennard Garrett, Kennard Garrett. I think you can find most of what we got going on through Google, and I think that's what we want. We want our audience to Google things and figure out not only what we're trying to show you, but what others have said from what we're trying to do. So I think that should work pretty good.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I'll put those links in the show notes too, so
Right
they can, just in case anyone gets a little lazy.
No worries. Yeah, sometimes you got to make it easier for them. It's all good.
Nice. Well, thank you guys very much, and thank you everyone for listening. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.